Hello and welcome to this edition of Central Connecticut Now, where you get to learn more about the newsmakers in Central Connecticut and the people who cover them. I'm Mike Schroeder, editor and publisher of the New Britain Herald and Bristol Press, and today my guest is State Senator Henri Martin. Henri, welcome aboard.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
We are, just in case you don't know, Henri represents Bristol, Harwinton, Thomaston,
Plymouth, and Plainville.
There we go. So, and this is your second term, third term?
Third term.
Third term. Yeah. And every year I'm sure there's something new. You know, as you know, we're out of the session, and now you've had a chance to take a little bit of breather. You take a little heat from the people around. You know, I'm sure everybody who stops you has something to say about it.
Yeah, when I go to the grocery store, I go out to maybe eat out to dinner with my wife. I'll get stopped, and it's all part of being a senator. But yeah, they'll catch my ear and tell me how they feel. But it's good because it gives me an opportunity to sort of listen to the pulse of my district and make sure that I'm listening and I hear what their concerns are. Well,
you know what? We didn't talk about that before the show started, but that would be interesting. What are you hearing out there as the major concerns of your constituency?
Oh, God, I would say, if I could summarize it, I think what I'm hearing is frustration. I think the frustration of the increase in taxes that's being just reoccurring, at least since I've been elected. And one of the reasons why I got involved back in 2011, I just felt that, gee, it just seemed like the answer to a problem was always, oh, gee, we need some revenue, let's raise taxes. And coming from the small business, being a real estate broker and having grown up in a construction family business, I just understood the struggles and the challenges of running a small business and the impact of taxes and what they do to a business. And I just felt I was not being represented. So I decided to step forward and hopefully do something about it. But what I hear is this frustration of, gee, why are my taxes going up again?
What are they expecting? What are people expecting? Are they expecting things to stay the same, taxes to stay the same?
Mike, I think they just want government to get a hold or get a handle on their expenditures or the way they do business, so to speak, and to stop going into our pockets and run your state like I am expected to run my household.
Right, at the end of the month, you can't have a deficit
Correct.
At home
and
expect to still be in your house much longer.
And that frustration is getting, you can see by the tone of the way they talk to me, you can feel that frustration and that anger that's
It's going to be more anger than just
Correct.
frustration now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they're not going to put up much longer with increased taxes.
Well, that outcry you saw just recently with the grocery tax, you saw that was pretty clear. You saw it with that 10-cent plastic bag charge when you go to a grocery store. And I saw it when I went on tour throughout the state for tolls. People just saw that as another form of a tax increase.
During the session, did you feel that frustration then too? Did you expect the backlash to be what it was?
I expected it, yes. I think that because of some of the bills that were introduced were anti-business, anti-growth, so to speak, and I just felt that that it was to be expected, that outcry, and I think it's expect more to come too, because that family medical leave bill that was passed is not coming. You won't see that until they start taking 0.5% out of your pay, that were all over, regardless of who your employer is. They're going to be taking 0.5% out of your pay as an employee to fund this family medical leave.
But they won't call that a tax.
Well, it is.
It is a tax. It is, but it is a tax.
Sure
it is a, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
It's more money out of your pocket.
Sure. Absolutely. So, and that I say that's to come because we haven't seen the effects of that yet, like we have with the plastic bag tax and the grocery tax.
And that isn't coming out of businesses' pocket. That's coming out of employees' pockets.
That's coming
right?
out of employees. And I'll give you an example. So $30,000, someone who's grossing of $30,000 a year at a 0.5%, that would be about $150 out of their pay for the year, and to go into this pool to fund family medical leave.
And you didn't see in your talking to constituents that they saw enough benefit to justify that?
I don't think the conversation is yet to begin on the family medical leave just because it hasn't affected them yet. They hear about it, and they may know or may not know that it's coming, just like the plastic bag tax, right? Nobody really knew what was coming. But all of a sudden, when it does come, I think we'll see the vocalization of that coming out.
And you mentioned the food tax, the
grocery tax.
The grocery tax. What would you have done something differently with that?
Oh yeah, I would have. I think the intent was to sort of ease the public into the of going paper bagless, and the side note on that is that, gee, the state was able to raise some revenue. I think the projected revenue over a 2-year period, maybe $20 million, maybe 40, 30. But I don't think the state saw the effects or how the public would. Let me finish my thought first.
Sure.
So the intent was to change behavior because of what was the plastic bags, where they were ending up in our streams or in our oceans and so forth, or in our landfill as well.
Sure.
So I think what I would have done was, let's do it away with them, period. Never mind this sort of easing in, going back to trying to ease in the public of getting used to this.
Right.
And I think what I would have done different was let's just do it.
Yep.
The intent is to clean up our landfills. The intent is to clean up our the rivers and streams. Then let's do it, and we're doing it for this reason, and not necessarily to ease things in and to gain some money. But I'm sure they used. The intent may have been also to see, gee, we can balance this year's budget or this current budget, biennium budget, by collecting $20 million.
Have you seen any changes in you're now in your third term, between the early time that you were in office, between now? Have you seen any changes in the process, or in the people, or in the problems that you're having to deal with?
I think the issue regarding, perhaps I'll zero in on the budget, is I don't think there's a realization from the other side of the aisle of the importance of the effects that these policies have taken on the business community, that eventually filters down to employees and their household. I don't think they understand the total impact of that, because we just keep fighting year after year policies that are anti-business policies and regulatory policies. I think this administration, I'll give this to Governor Lamont, I think some of the commissioners, whether it's DEEP or the DECD, are looking at ways to, gee, how can we streamline our process as being administrators of these agencies? How can we streamline it so that we can at least send a message out to the business community that we are open for business, that we are, we do want you to come in. It's difficult because of current and existing policies that we have in place, and those have been recently adopted this last session. So they've got that battle to deal with as well. So,
so do you think you're seeing some light in in some policy changes that lean toward being better for business?
Well, I think we see some. I think they're small. But when you have policies such as the current one where we just increase minimum wage, where we know that by increasing minimum wage, you know that either the cost of a product is going to have to be increased because of that increase in labor cost, right? And if you increase the product cost, the consumer then makes a decision whether or not, gee, am I going to pay more for that product? And if they decide not to, then the cost of that product just sort of put a stop to sales, so to speak. Yeah. And then if your reduction in demand is decreased, then you're looking at laying off individuals. And when the effects of that layoff usually goes towards those that are less skilled. So now those individuals are being subsidized
further and further into the hole.
Yeah, absolutely. So,
and we're on a phase-in plan now, right?
We are, correct. Yeah, we just raised it to 11, and I think next year or in 10 months it goes up to, I want to say, another $1.50 to $12.50. To $12.50, and then after that, by 2023, I think we're at $15 an hour.
So the bottom line is we're on the $15 road.
Yeah. I think we're going to be, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to be the only state in the union that will be at $15 an hour. Yeah.
So it's going to be a difficult time for business and the people that work.
Oh, I think the cost across the board, it may help in a short run individuals who are recipients of that $15 an hour. And Mike, let's just be clear on those that are earning minimum wage. You're talking about, if my memory serves me correct, we are talking about 13.7% of the population, of all the workforce that earn minimum wage. And out of that, we are looking at maybe from 16 years old to 24 years old. They are 50% of the minimum wage earners, and 24% are teenagers.
Yes.
And out of those teenagers, these are individuals who are in high school, and they they live in their middle income families, and they are. They earn minimum wage. So, are we really addressing those that who really need to learn
people that
better
are
skills?
Raising a family, for
Correct.
example?
Yeah, it's not a living wage. It's not meant to be that. It's meant to be entry level. Get your foot into the door, learn some basic skills, and then while you're doing that, let's look for another job where you can learn a different set of skills and earn a greater amount of money.
But in between, we're going to be seeing some inflation that's going to go into effect.
Yeah.
That we've legislated.
Correct. I think this is just a formula or part of the ingredients of stagnation and continued no growth here in the state of Connecticut, and just a sort of a halting of any type of movement of improvement of our economy.
Well, like you said, that there's going to be, we're looking toward 2023 as the end of that phase-in. Mm-hmm. We've got 3 more years to deal with, of something that's going to be happening over this time. Has there been any talk of how to deal with it, or is it just a given that now everybody just has to live with?
Well, I think we're adjusting to having to live with it right now. I think the numbers, I think we sort of have to wait for numbers to come out to say, gee, what's the impact of all this? So I think we saw the tip of the iceberg when on West Hartford, when ShopRite decided to close their doors. Let's face it, Mike, companies, businesses have a certain expense to run a company, have certain margins, and most businesses today, particularly in this type of climate in Connecticut, margins are tight across the board.
And have been for a while.
And have been, correct.
Yeah.
You know, going back to 2008 when the Great Recession started. But you look at those businesses that are operating on the margin or in a very tight competitive market. So when you have an increase in wages, you have to make a decision. All right, am I able to absorb that cost as a business and still be competitive?
Right.
Or or if I can't absorb it, then I have to increase my product line. The cost of that product increases, so I have to raise my prices. Now that puts you into, if you decide to raise your prices, go back to that little cycle that takes place, right? You raise your prices, consumers decide whether or not they want to purchase that product at a new price. If they choose not to, then sales go down, and that results in less demand. Less demand leads to unemployment. But let's look at it from the other side, where the employer decides to absorb the cost, but is on the margin, and all of a sudden he is not making any money, and he now is starting to lose money, just like ShopRite had to make that decision. I'm closing my doors. All those people, most of them probably got laid off. And those that make this decision, if I can't raise my prices because I won't be competitive or I am going to lose money. And then eventually when they do make that decision of not raising their prices, go down that road and they don't make any money, it's just a matter of time. You know, that they close their doors, and then here's a layoff of all those employees.
So we're just going to have to see how it affects.
How it affects, yeah. Yeah, and that's that's the frustration. Is go back to your question. You know, what have I seen?
Yeah.
It's not realizing the effects from the other side of the aisle, the impact of their policies on the business community and on the economy of the state of Connecticut.
Do you expect to see a change in who gets elected because of that frustration?
Well, I think it's the way that you want to see a change here in Connecticut. I think the only way to do it is for the voters to get to the polls and say, voice your frustration, and come out to vote for the people that are going to look at running the state in a different manner. Because we've been doing the same thing, it seems like, for the last four decades, for the last 40 years. We've been running it the same way, and look where we've gotten ourselves into. You know, back in the 70s and the 80s, we were rolling into such, the economy was at full throttle, and we were doing everything right. And now look where we are, right? So.
Now, there must have been some good things that came out of the session. Do you recall anything that you said, yeah, we're seeing something here that makes some sense? Well,
I'll go back to last year's budget, where we had the bipartisan budget for the first time. I think the positive and the message that we were able to send, and it's one of the things when I first arrived at the Capitol, I remember I put it up on my whiteboard, you know, Social Security, pension. Why are we taxing Social Security? Our elders have already paid for that, you know, and pensions. Why are we taxing pensions? So, you know, there's a chunk of money, maybe $340 million in the pensions, and I'm going to guess $54 million maybe for Social Security. I can't remember exactly. But one of the things that we were able to bring at the table, and it was a Republican initiative, was starting this year, right, that people will, the seniors, their Social Security will not be taxed. The pensions, I believe, are being phased in over a 5 or 7 year period. I think it's 14%. And it may be both. I can't quite remember because it was a year ago, and it was taking only effect this year. But when you have both sides of the aisle in the room, some good things do come out. You know,
That's a good
there's some more arguing,
Yeah.
and more frustration inside the room, but when the doors open up and they come walking out, gee, look, this is what we did together.
Do you think there's a reasonable chance of having another bipartisan budget in the next next session, right?
Oh, I wish I could say yes, but we're just not being. I think we're, for optics, it's being said that we're being invited to the room, and that I don't think that's true. We're not being invited into the room, and they're making all the decisions. So I wish I could say differently, but I think if we could have everybody in the room at the same time, I think you'd come out with good results.
There's still a good, solid Bristol delegation. though,
Yes.
right? I mean, you guys are of like mind.
Well, we absolutely are. We, besides myself, with Doc Pettit from Plainville, we have Carol Pavlock in the 77th district. We have Whit Betts in the 78th, and John Piscopo out 22nd, I think, is John's district, and he represents Thomaston and Harlington.
Yep.
And yeah, we're pretty like mind regarding what we feel, how we represent our constituents, and the values and what's important to our district, the 31st district. Yes.
Do you guys get together to decide? You know, we may not have control of things, but if we put our minds to it, we might be able to get this little chunk if we work together.
Regarding the delegation?
Yes.
So we're all on different committees, so we may be on committees together. I think we may talk on certain bills that are coming forward, and they may have gotten out of committee. So we do share and talk about it, and if there's a disagreement, we sort of have that little internal debate, so to speak. But for the most part, our conversations we're pretty much on the same page. I'll tell you regarding what took place this past session, that where we had a discussion, not the delegation, but it took place on the Transportation Committee. Representative Laura Devlin and myself were ranking members of the Transportation Committee, and we knew because of the outcome of the recent election that pretty much anything that the Democratic side of the aisle wanted to get through, they could. Family medical leave, unemployment, and then for us it was tolls. So Laura and I sat down and we came to the conclusion is the only way that we are going to make a change or stop tolls, it was that we needed to get a grassroots effort from people throughout the state. We put a little plan together as a result of that meeting, and we approached both of our leaders, her for those Themis Claridis and myself, Senator Len Fasano. They both agreed, got on board with us. They gave us the green light. We went to 21 different communities throughout the state, showed them. When we put a PowerPoint presentation together on tolls, this is both our 5th year being on the Transportation Committee. So through those years, we've learned a lot regarding tolls, and we shared the information of what we learned, and we shared an alternative of tolling with the public. And the idea was to let them, if they see what we see, then this grassroots effort would grow. And sure enough,
it kind of worked.
It worked, and I have to take off my hat to the No Tolls organization. Yeah. And they were sort of on a similar path, but we were parallel paths, but we found out obviously that about each other, and then now we've become like. Our goal and mission was the same, and because of that, we've been today, and I'm excited to say that the 82 gantries, the tolls throughout Connecticut, 84, 80, 95, 91, 15, 8, 9, 691, all of that is off the table. In addition, the 53 gantries is off the table, and now they're talking about, stay tuned everybody, they're talking about a master plan. It's not a 30-year plan. It's now a 10-year plan addressing the ports, the harbors, airport, railways, and the roads and our bridges, focusing on the roads and the bridges, opening up where there are some bottlenecks on certain roads, identifying 9, 10, 13 different bridges. Unfortunately, what they're presenting is tolling on those bridges. We're not sold on it. So stay tuned, everybody. That may be another battle. But nonetheless, so we've gone from 82 gantries to now to a different plan.
Really
altogether.
narrowed it down.
Okay, yeah.
Well, it sounds like you did some real legwork to get there, but it did happen.
We certainly did, yes.
But I'll tell you, it is a pleasure talking with you, Senator Martin, and I hope that you'll join us again when we have a chance to talk more about what's going on.
Absolutely, be happy to.
In the legislature.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Yes.
Thanks for coming. And thank you for joining us for this edition of Central Connecticut Now. We hope you'll have a great month and join us again when we bring you the newsmakers and the people who cover them. Good day.